Hi everybody, here we are at RHS Wisley, and today we're going to be visiting the great Houseplant Takeover at Wisley. It's up in the greenhouse and the glass house, and we're just walking up there now. So I'll just give you a quick shot of how Wisley's looking this morning. It's a bright day but quite chilly. We're just outside the glass house and we'll be going in a second just to have a look at the house, which I believe has been built especially for today, and it's filled with houseplants. So let's get going. The Houseplant Takeover is actually in the main glass house at the RHS Wisley. They've actually built a replica of several rooms in a house, and the idea is that the houseplants have taken over the house and are basically everywhere in the house, as you will see in a moment. The place is actually called Monstera Mansion, which is a great name. We'll take you around each of the room in turn in a moment, but let's have a look at the way in first of all. Here we are in the entrance hallway of Monstera Mansion. As you can see, the greenhouse itself, the glass house, sorry, is looking absolutely amazing. You can see a variegated Monstera there, and also a chessboard where all the pieces are made from small cacti in little black and white pots, which is an absolutely wonderful idea. As you can see, everything has got houseplants on it, in it, under it, through it. This is the most incredible Monstera variegata albo, which looks really, really nice. There's some lovely syngoniums under the table there. I think some of the plants you can see are actually the sort of regular inhabitants of the glass house, and some are houseplants that have just been added, obviously, for this event. As we move around, you can see this beautiful dressing sort of bureau, I think, with the Alocasia zagrina coming out of the drawers, and there's some Monstera adansonii in amongst all the plants and the pots, and also a wonderful lampshade and this really interesting fireplace with some framed Staghorn. As you can see, the entranceway has a telephone table. I'm not sure that all of the people visiting this, especially the younger people, actually know what a telephone table is. I probably have never seen one. There's some beautiful pothos coming out of the clock, and I think a type of philodendron coming trailing off the top. So I'm trying now desperately to remember the names of all of these plants. Just some beautiful greenery. I think that's a kind of a small kogodama that just sat on top of a vase, and some beautiful ripsalis and bits of a There were some really beautiful ideas for displaying plants in really unusual ways. These were some of my favourites. I thought they were very clever and looked really cool. I don't know how many plants that went into some of the displays, but they were incredible. Here we are now in the bedroom with the most amazing four-poster bed completely made out of bromeliads, with me looking a little bit lost. Again, a dressing table with more bromeliads. There were soil and pots and plants absolutely everywhere. Mostly kind of a Victorian look, but it all worked really well. It was really quite amazing to see. This is the kitchen with the scales in the kitchen with some lovely Sarracenia. This was mostly, I guess, because it was a kitchen, they had the carnivorous plants. A lighting chandelier. Oh, sorry, we've just moved on now into the dining room. That caught me a bit unawares. And they had this beautiful table all laid out with, again, more cacti, carnivorous plants. The room divider, which again split up the different spaces. This is a big sweep of the living room, again with some beautiful sort of yucca, and the seats had plants erupting out of the cushions, which I particularly liked. The wine glasses, if you notice, actually have the Marimo moss balls in them, and again some Sarracenia coming out of the coffee pot, and some fabulous cacti there. Another little sort of Victorian display cabinet, again with plants bursting out of it. One of the tallest kind of euphorbias that I've ever seen, which was beautiful. Everything had kind of Spanish moss or succulents or air plants or something, sort of coming in and out of everywhere. A lovely sort of huge palm tree there, which was surrounded by the houseplants as well. They've sort of worked it all in quite well around the pre-existing displays. So that was the dining room, and there's me standing next to this display to give you a sense of scale. Some beautiful framed sort of ferns and baby's breath. One of the most impressive rooms was this one, the bathroom. So there's the sink with the plants, the bath and the shower, which was, in this case, there's a shower head with some string of pearls coming out of it, and the amazing waterfall, which is a permanent fixture but was there used as part of the bathroom. And I don't know if we can see it, the floor was tiled with alternating tiles of different plants. I think you might just see it a little bit. Lots and lots of beautiful ferns in the bathroom, which I guess is the best place for them to be. And again, a beautiful fern displayed in a frame. We now move on to the main glass house, which isn't part of the Houseplant Takeover, but it's just, they have various things dotted around the rest of the glass house. So, I mean, the RHS glass house is a must visit for any plant lover. They just have the most amazing display of plants. The spiral that you can see in the background is actually completely made up of air plants, in this case Tillandsia. There must have been absolutely hundreds and hundreds of them to make this up. I think we get a close-up shot of it in a moment, but right now we're showing you the various cacti that are in the rest of the glass house. We're making our way towards the Echeverria gallery. Here we are. And they had, I think, about 10 or so framed pictures hanging on the wall, totally made up of multiple Echeverria. Just a quick shot before we look at that of the other plants. Again, this, I think the lower bed is part of the permanent display and looks amazing. I'm sure you've seen before putting succulents into picture frames, but this is a particularly good example of them. I did have a closer look to see how they've done it, and they've actually used chicken wire behind and a sort of box of soil, and then chicken wire to hold the soil in, and then the Echeverias are planted and rooted into that. But they are done beautifully well with different shapes and different textures. I think I tried to go slowly enough with this shot so that you could actually see the names of some of the plants. Being the RHS, they do have everything labelled incredibly well, although for some reason a lot of the house plants, I must say, weren't necessarily labelled. So just a beautiful display here of Euphorbia, Yucca, all looking absolutely amazing. The plants are obviously very well looked after. So I think here I have tried to get some closer shots of the frames. I think I'm going to try and have a go at doing one of these myself over the summer. So I was trying to figure out how many Echeverias are in each frame, and I think the smaller one, which I think I do focus on a bit more, I think I counted 20. So the larger ones must have over 100 in each one. So not necessarily the cheapest things to do, depends where you get your Echeverias from. If you want to, you can pause here and count, and I think there is just over 20. And here we are with a close-up or a slightly better look of the Tillandsia sculpture, which spirals from the floor right up to the ceiling. I did ask one of the members of staff if they knew how many plants were in it, and they weren't quite sure, but there is a heck of a lot. Again, this is the permanent display in the glass house, and as you can see, some of the specimens are absolutely enormous. One of the main reasons, and I think one of the best reasons to go and have a look at the RHS glass house, is you will see a lot of plants that when we grow them in our own homes, are very, very small, and you can just see just how big they get in a more natural environment. I mean, obviously this isn't nature, but it's as near as they can get, so you can just see just how huge some of these plants are. Here we are in the Houseplant Takeover. This is the house that they have built. Then it's filled with houseplants, as you can see. We'll include lots of shots of the various plants. There's some amazingly good ideas of how to display plants. Some that you could use quite easily in your own home, others not so easy to do. But as you can see, there are some really interesting ideas here. I particularly like the wine glasses, which have moss balls in them, and the Sansevieria growing out of the chairs, which are like bursting out of the seat, which is really cool. And everything in here is a house plant, and it looks really amazing, and it's also incredibly busy. That airplane's doing better than mine. So that's really it for the main houseplant takeover part of the day out. What I'm going to leave you with now is just some footage of the actual main glass house that the sort of houseplant takeover was in. It's an absolutely massive, really impressive glass house. It's well worth a visit if you ever get the chance. So what I'm just going to leave you with now is just some footage. I'm not going to have any voiceover, just so that you can enjoy the plants. I've tried to get some names of the plants if I can. So I mean, if there's anybody who wants to ask about anything, maybe just leave it in the comments. So I'm going to leave you with this footage until we make it to the shop, and then I'll come back in and talk about what was going on there. So enjoy the rest of this section. Might actually be oblique.
A jungle like this.
So we've got this family. Look at these.
Here we are in the shop, which is much extended than the shop usually is at Wisley. They've got a lot more houseplants, although to be honest I haven't been here for a while. As you can see, they have some amazing houseplants, although not a lot of especially unusual stuff. It was mostly stuff that you expect to see. Great display of ferns here, which I bought one or two myself. Wonderful sort of indoor ferns, although I've always found ferns quite difficult to keep indoors. They had some potted up in some nice hanging planters as well, although they were quite expensive for the planters. Here I am looking at some carnivorous plants, which I did actually buy that plant in that little pot. It's very nice, just some pitcher plants. some air plants that were all very nicely displayed. I particularly liked this wire mesh idea with the air plants in little pots or directly attached to it. It looked really nice. I thought that would be an idea that you could very, very easily copy at home. Again, lots of very unusual planters and ways of displaying things. Huge range of cactus, as you can see here. I'm looking at the cactus, and if you notice just above my head, that's one of the big terrariums that they were actually using in the display. They were, I think, about £30. The big cactuses were around about 90 quid or so, so not cheap, but really good quality, very good plants. As you can see outside, it was an awful day. We were there, but some lovely plants to cheer us up. Again, there I am surveying and thinking, what am I going to buy? What am I going to buy? So beautiful, beautiful plants, gorgeous. There's some alocasia there. I think I can see some really massive leaved pothos in the front there. Looks like an aglaonema with quite possibly an aspidistra behind it. So as you can see, there are a good range of plants. I would definitely recommend going to Wisley for the shop for houseplants, as they are all very good quality. Although I was very disappointed to see that they had the sort of standard Monstera adansonii listed as a Monstera obliqua, and as we know, hashtag it's never obliqua. But you know, what can you do? I think they come from the suppliers labelled that, but I was surprised that nobody had spotted that and changed it. So again, just another shot of just the various plants that they had. I think this size was probably about 10-12 quid for, again, just stuff that to be honest, stuff that you pretty much see everywhere. You had to kind of rummage around. There was a few little bits and pieces that were quite unusual. But I think the RH shops, and Wisley in particular, they do sell some really nice stuff. They have really good pots, really good containers. I mean, look at that display of orchids. Really, really beautiful. But again, there was some unusual stuff, and I think there may even been a couple of dyed ones in there. Very good, helpful customer services. We were looking for some stuff particularly, and they were very, very helpful for us.